Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Lord's March Plaza for another offering from the Bear Cave. This time in response to a forum post and a post on my YouTube comments about the same thing, I've decided to revisit the Cold Druid, and maybe we can do a little comparison on what I'd chosen in the past, because I think it's been at least 2 or 3 years since the little build and guide thing I did, and have a little look at where the class is now, how effective you can be at the end game, in what level of content, that kind of thing, and some of the strategies I used to try and keep myself and others out of harm's way. So, in an attempt to keep this on the rails and not have me wandering off on all sorts of tangents, I've made a little list of bullet points. So we're going to start off with the feats. I think the game's a bit wonky in the way it presents the feats, so I'm just going to read them out. As a human, as I am at the moment, I've got an extra one to choose. So we've got the standard caster stuff: empower, maximize, quicken. If you have it, past life arcane initiate is a nice one. That's the past life wizard, +1 on all your DCs. If you've followed the caster situation recently, you'll know that unlike with some of these melee types, eking out every possible DC is definitely something we should be doing, because even when you do that, there are things in the higher level content, the Lamordias of this world, just kind of walking through my burst of glacial wrath now. So the DCs are important. I think there's something in the pipeline from the developers to rebalance or assist a little bit with that kind of thing. So on the DC theme, of course, with evocation being the lion's share of what the caster, the Cold Druid does, we've got evocation, spell focus, and then greater spell focus, evocation. I took heighten because I'm led to believe that that works on greater colour spray, which is, as a druid, it's our only source of defense really against a reaper, short of just annihilating it with damage. The only way we can stop a reaper is the greater colour spray from the Fade Arc tree, and I'm led to believe that's default level 5. So if we can heighten that to 9 and get +4 DC on that, that would be lovely. I'm seeing no evidence in game that that's actually working. I don't see any difference in the what DC is displayed, but I'm led to believe it might be a thing. So I've left it for now. Instead of heighten, some people could want the heavy armor mastery if you're not bothered about evasion and you want to go the heavy armor route instead. That's a popular choice. I've also taken discipline at the end of heroic because it pairs very nicely with this one in Magus, imperceptible casting, to give us 60% reduction in our threat generation, which is just lovely, especially considering I've had issues with that in the past. So that's the heroic. Going into epic, I've got epic spell focus evocation. Could have taken Wellspring at that point, but I thought that given that I'm not in the draconic tree at all in epic, I just, and the DCs are so tight as well, I went for the epic spell focus. Epic spell power cold, burst of glacial, not so much for the damage, more for the CC, but it does do a little bit of damage as we are a cold druid, and it's kind of in the theme of what we're doing. Epic spell epic spell power force, cold and force are your bread and butter for the cold druid. Cold because your two big AoEs, tsunami and ice flowers, are both half cold, and the other half, you guessed it, is force. So you want to cover those two bases. Cold and Force, spell power and crit, really nice to have, as well as crit damage for those two would be great on the gear. Moving further into Epic, we've got Intensify spell, Epic spell power electric, that's kind of the third element. I tend to run with the Core Lightning Storm on. I use a swap weapon here. You can see at the bottom there the Isle of Dread horn slot. I like to try and trigger the tar oozers to take some of the heat off me, as well as debuffing enemy bosses. And on the other side, we've got Brighthorn for the chance to have 1000 temp HP's trigger. That runs all that chance is going all the while the Core Lightning Storm is going, which is a minute and a half, I think. It's a bit clunky, swap weapon, cast thing, swap back, and yes, you can be left with the wrong weapon sometimes, but I think it's advantageous enough that I've been persuaded to try and do it. So where were we? Electric, 30, we've got Embolden for, again, DCs. Scion of the Plane of Water, obviously. More evocation, more cold power, cold crit damage, all the good stuff. 31, I went with Epic Power Positive because as a Druid we do have some incredibly good healing stuff as well. We've got 2 amazing ticking heals as well as the heal spell itself, so it pays us to boost up the positive. And of course every individual spell power that we boost in Epic is also giving us a 5% bonus to all the others damage types as well, so that's another good reason to choose several types. 33, I've got Epic Reflexes, so my casters typically all have evasion. That looks quite low. Well, it is quite low there, but I've got all my Reaper points in reflex save as well, so I think you can add maybe... How much have we got extra on there? You can add 12 to that, so we're in the mid 80s once we add Epic Reflexes on. Is that right? So we might be 85 in Reaper. Yeah, something like that. So to get no fail on a 1 is quite nice. I think 85 is reasonably workable as a evasion reflex save. I did my best with it. And then the last one, an obvious one for those who don't have it on the gear, the Titan's Blood, legendary bonus to max hit points. So that was the feats. Let's have a look at the heroic enhancements. If I can press the right damn button. Right. Pretty standard stuff. 41 Seasons Herald. I'll go over quickly some of the key things. I haven't chosen the spell power boost because we have it as human. He has 5 racial points, so I've just... it's quite good, actually. We've got a spell power boost there, we've got healing amp there, and an extra point of wisdom for the DC side of things, so not terrible. Race-wise, I think the best ones you could choose for a caster druid would be either the Dragonborn for the... you've got cold spell power and max caster bonus to the cold in there as well, haven't you? Or you've got the casty shifter. What are they called? Is it Wild Hunt Shifter? I think you can end up with a decent number of extra DCs on that particular one. Particularly in the case of the Dragonborn, you do need to spend sort of 20 plus points in the tree, I think, from memory, to really get the good stuff up at the top. So bear that in mind. If you're like me here with few racial points, it might not be the best idea unless you're prepared to compromise in other areas. Here, what else can we... Yes, for leveling, these SLAs are not bad. These two at the bottom are pretty lukewarm, produce flame and creeping cold. Not amazing even with full metas on, but once you get this core lightning fully meted, that's really decent. It's you're going around and you're one-shotting Reapers with that, which is a lot of fun. Salt Ray, excellent single target CC, doesn't work on Reapers, but double distance and quite decent damage as well from the Force, so that's not bad. But this one is the big one, the World of Balance. Once you get that, you start one-shotting Reapers, and that's hugely satisfying. Some people like to keep these. I think it's too much of an investment. 15 points to get all these, and I honestly would probably only use the Word of Balance one at the cap. Salt Ray is excellent, don't get me wrong. I would totally use it if I didn't have the Moon Lance, which also has a freeze on it. But with that on such a short cooldown, I just don't think I'd get too much mileage out of the Salt Ray. And the same for Word of Balance. That's on a nice short cooldown as well. I don't think it says there, but I think is it 6-8 seconds, something like that. So I don't think I'd make too much out of having a second copy. Maybe against a Doom Reaper or something like that. But I mean, I've seen people just put 1 point in each of these just so they could have the second copy of the Word of Balance. But not really for me. To me, these top tier things are a little bit lukewarm. 15 healing amp isn't bad, and you can always give it to a melee companion, because that's one nice thing you can do with this. It doesn't have to go on you, so it would have more impact on, let's say, a tanky melee that was doing some damage as well. A bit more spell power, not terrible. That's not bad. And then this one, I've had to learn to apply that. It's very good, but you have to keep remembering to press the button. I'm not a huge fan of these things that you know, they're very good, but you have, the onus is on you to press the button. So I've got a chain of 3 that I tend to do together. We've got the spell power boost, we've got the Reaper's potency for more DCs, and the Winter's Heart. I just press it every now and again and hope for the best out of it. I can't stress enough the importance of the temp hit points. Whereas the higher up the levels you go, the more likely you are to be hit sometimes for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, even as I was recently, 4,000 hit points damage. And if you have some of these temp hit point sources, like that, this Brighthorn thing I mentioned, like this Winter's Heart, and possibly like the Shard Storm as well. Maybe that's a bit overkill, but I quite like having it there. I recently took 4,000 damage in a Reaper quest, and for it was luck more than judgment, but he didn't die from it, and he only has, I think, about 2.7 by default in Reaper, so the 10 hit points there definitely saved his life. So yeah, 41 Seasons Herald, 31 Feydark. It's nice. Well, these cores anyway are a good fit for the Cold Druid. You've got Force and Universal Power. Force is a big thing for the Cold Druid, so nice to have. And that's for every core, so nice there. But this one in particular is very advantageous. One illusion DC isn't terrible for the colour spray, but having Enlarge on everything at no additional cost is just lovely. Suddenly you're able to throw, well, we're able to throw down our favoured combination of crowd control, which is the Ice Storm to debuff enemy reflex saves, followed by the Earthquake, the Sunburst. So we've got Knockdown, Blind, and then we throw in our Cold Light of the Moon from the Epic Destiny, just to round it out. To be able to do that at double range is huge, because that means you can do it without the opponents having seen you and scattered, so you tend to be able to lock them down quite nicely. for either you to follow up and finish them off, or your rest of your group to do so. So that in large is kind of key to the strategy, and to hit and not be hit survival time. To round it out, we've got 6 in Vistani for the deflect missile. We do also have a bit of extra defense in there, which isn't bad. The neg energy absorption has taken on a new lease of life now that Death Ward's been nerfed. Death Ward, if you didn't know, used to protect against all incoming neg energy damage. Now it's just, I think it's 50% reduction. So this should stack with that and hopefully give more defense. And 15 heal amp from the falconry tree. Other good things in Fade Arc, it's a nice balance of attack and defense. We've got plenty of extra DC potential because we've got 4 wisdom as well here. We've got the very nice You've Got My Back, so magic missile defense. And you might have noticed I've thrown on the sapphire studded buckles, so we've got a shield clickable there, which in conjunction with that enhancement gives us 10 extra PRR for clicking the shield on. So at the start of each quest, actually that went up by 20, didn't it? Can that be right? What happened there? Well, I don't know, but I'm not I'm not complaining. There must be something I haven't noticed there. As far as I was aware, we should have got 10 more PRR for doing the shield, but that's gone up from 147 to 169, hasn't it? So I don't know why it's done that. Or does this shield? Oh, I do. Insightful physical sheltering on the shield, which I forgot to put back. So now we're on 157. Yeah, okay. So it is plus 10. So that's a nice thing to have. Further up, we've got something very nice for the build as well. Force crit chance and 1 universal crit chance as well. But the force is really good for our build anyway. This little refraction thing, sometimes we can turn invisible when under fire. Again, nice defensively. A few more on saves. So it's just a good all-round tree for anybody who's dealing in force. I did do a little bit of filler, I think, to get to the 30 mark for this. I think I put that in, which I wouldn't normally. True seeing on a caster, not really relevant, is it? But I don't think it's terrible. So that's the heroic trees. If I had to hazard a guess, I haven't really watched it back, but I wouldn't think that too much has changed in there from the original video. Where the changes have come about post Dragon Breath nerf are in the epic. So we've completely dropped the draconic tree where the Dragon Breath was. I think many would argue that's a mistake because the Draconic Mantle is easily the best damage-wise with its ticking damage over time it applies. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think I basically had a choice between the wings from Exalted, which really do help my survivability, especially when the Doom Reapers come a-calling and you need to try and outmaneuver them, or I could have gone Draconic. There's one reason I'm glad I'm not Draconic. The Draconic Mantle, as good as it is, applies its ticking damage to all offensive spells. So, whereas the Mantle that we have here from Primal is only on cold and electric in our case. So when we cast like force stuff like Word of Balance, we're not going to get a Mantle tick on that. But it also does mean, on a positive side, if I'm trying to just hold up a Vengeance Reaper and not kill it by doing my colour spray, then I can do that without the ticking damage. The game seems to consider that an offensive spell. So when you do that and you've got the Draconic Mantle on, you are going to apply that ticking mantle damage in your element onto the target, so you're going to end up killing a Vengeance, and sometimes that can happen at the most inopportune moments. So that's one actual defensive benefit of not having the Draconic Mantle. But I think if I could if it wasn't competing with the wings of this tree. If I could have the draconic thing, I would. While we're talking about mantle, it's important to mention, for those of you who don't know, the big benefit of being in the primal one is this thing here, the evergreen. The temporary spell points that it gets you over the course of a quest, it's enormous, to the extent that it's not too often that you have to worry very much about mana, which is a nice position to be in if you're just in it to, to go in the quest and have tear some things up and have fun. So that's nice. Reasons for being, apart from that, for being in primal, it's a good fit for our build. We've got electric power and cold power in the cores, which is great. We've got our evasion, which comes from here. If we didn't have evasion from here, well, assuming we want evasion, which I do, I've built for it. If we didn't have evasion from there, we would have to take it from Shadow Dancer, third core, which I don't think that tree is nearly as good a fit for our build as this one. We've got a couple more points on our casting stat there, which is nice. Here I went for Shard Storm, so like a defense, more of a defensive pick, 10 hit points. I have tried with Thunder Snow, and I just can't get to like it. The 20-second cooldown is too much for me. It tends to only hit a single target, and the damage is a bit lukewarm anyway. So Shard Storm for me it is. I tend to throw that on. The higher up you go in Reaper, the more appealing temporary hit point things become, because unlike standard healing, these things are not nerfed by the Reaper mode, so you get the full benefit every time. So if I'm going to close with the pack of opponents, hitting the Shard Storm is a really nice like shield that you can use. So yeah, that's the primal. We had heavy investment in primal in the previous one anyway, didn't we? Here I've already mentioned the exalted is basically just for the wings. We've taken some evocation DC in there, which is our main casting school, easily on the cold druid. There's very little else. You've got transmutation on the ice flowers, which is worth investing in, and I have done so. It's worth investing in because that's your AoE spammer, 2-second cooldown. So definitely worth boosting that up if you can. And the third school I am interested in is the illusion, which I've taken in there for the greatest colour spray and the reapers. So what do we get out of Magus then, being as this is a new tree completely for me? Well, the cores are a decent match. Cold, Force and Universal, so definitely a good match for our build. Otherwise, this too, criminally underused by me, but being immune to incoming magic spells for 20 seconds is a really big deal. Any enemy caster boss or sub-boss, or if you're going like in for those of you who have Mithdrana, the safe hold quest, when you're going up the stairs to get that crest from that army of Nothics, and my god, when they all start firing the force stuff on you, if you've got this, you've half a chance at survival, because as far as I know, those things can't hurt you while this is up. And the really good thing about it, if you read there, you and allies near you are immune. So provided they're ducked under your shield, they too will benefit from the immunity to incoming spells. So that can really be a game changer when you're under a hail of spell fire. Mentioned before, the lower threat generation coupled with our disciplined feat that we've taken in heroic, so 60% less threat on that. I've managed to get to, what did I say, 98% on this, which is way better than what I had before, so very pleased with that. The Epic Strike Moonlands It's really good. Very strong single target damage dealer, debuffer as well, because it drops vulnerability on the target. So nothing not to like there, apart from the fact that to get it to really work nicely, to get it to apply the freeze and the vulnerability and the proper damage, you have to go all the way up to tier 5. I think this is probably a tree where if you're gonna do it, you should really do it all out. I don't see too much benefit in sort of going halfway here. You'd have a lukewarm epic strike. Yeah, to me, you want to be up at the top. Nasty damage from your moon lands by taking that last one. You get the comet, which isn't bad. It's on a bit of a long cooldown, but as a sort of a 1-2 punch moon lands comet, that's not bad. It's as good as you're going to get for single target damage on this build, especially if you precede it with the excellent time stop. So yeah, I'm pretty happy overall with the Magus tree and what I've found. I don't think I've unlocked its full potential yet, but pretty happy. The cold light, it is on a bit of a long cooldown, but it goes well with what I try and do with this build. I basically try and make as big a CC mess as possible so that I or the rest of my team can clean up afterwards. So to that end, we've got this sequence. I always use the same sequence: ice storm, earthquake, sunburst. Not necessarily. None of these are really for damage. That'll be for the slow and the reflex save debuff that comes with being a cold druid. There you can see -4 penalty on reflex and fort saves. And then we've got the knockdown earthquake, blinding from sunburst, and then this just the icing on the cake. And if they stay long enough in the zone, the thing will explode and hopefully finish them off. So it works well. My build is all about getting groups of things sort of fairly incapacitated. So just dropping the cold light of the moon on the bottom is a nice little bonus. So that's the epic enhancements. Right, so let's talk for a moment about the key spells that I use. I've kind of touched on it already, and the approach that I have. For temporary hit points, I've got 3 things that I do. I think I've already mentioned this. So we've got the swapping of the bright horn weapon to trigger our core lightning storm, which can get us 1,000 temp hit points when that triggers. We've got shard storm, and we've also got the Winter's Heart. So we're not doing too badly with that as long as I remember to trigger the things. For CC, I think we're in a pretty good place, particularly because I have, can you see at the top there, Legendary Salt on my offhand weapon, which immediately greatly reduces enemy movement speed if you've not tried it before. If you haven't tried that before, in my experience at least, it's a big boost to survivability for you and your team. I'll try and illustrate that. I'll do a quest afterwards just to try and put some of these things I'm mentioning into practice and maybe show you a little bit what I'm talking about. But the 2 sort of cloud abilities we've got Sleet Storm and Ice Storm. These are both excellent for applying that salt on targets in an AoE. If you throw that down, and maybe let's say you get caught unawares and there's stuff piling through an open doorway, you throw the Ice Storm down and suddenly it's all running in slow motion and your team should have time to deal with it. If you have time against a group of unprepared opponents to throw all 3 of these things down, the ice, the knockdown earthquake, and the blinding sunburst, then the group are in a pretty good situation for you or any party mate to go in and mop up then. So that's the idea. When I get to closer range, I've got my two big CC options are the Burst of Glacial and the Greater Colour Spray. Depends a bit on the composition of the enemies. If there's one or more Reaper in the enemy group, I know obviously that only Greater Colour Spray will work on those, so I'll try and throw that in, and then maybe follow with Tsunami and possibly Ice Flower. If there's no Reapers, and or I'm facing undead plants, any of those awkward things that you need Glacial for, then obviously we'll do the Glacial and then Tsunami and Ice Flower. This is one thing that does feel a little bit unjust, in that you've got we're having to swap and change. We're having to take a special feat here just to be able to hold certain things in the game, and you've got this melee class, this Dragon Lord, running around with this all-conquering high DC shouty thing that can stop everything, even stuff that it really shouldn't be able to, I think. And with a lot less investment on the gear side, and still be very, very effective. So that does rankle a little bit, especially given that you know, traditionally the melee and the ranged aren't supposed to come with much, if any, of this CC type stuff. So the lines are definitely being blurred there. That's what I'll say to that. Single target is the big Achilles heel of this and many another caster build, I guess. What I try and do with those things like Doom Reaper, I'll try and hit them with the cold vulnerability first for the extra damage. So freezing spray, then the 2 ticking creeping colds, then the moon lance, because our moon lance also gives some extra vulnerability on the target, and finally the zero comet. And if it is a Reaper, we can throw a word of balance on it as well. That's the single target option. But yeah, we are pretty lukewarm on, and we have to endure a long cooldown on the zero comet as well. So it pretty much amounts to either Ice Flower spam or Moonlands against a single target. And the problem we have with Ice Flower is it goes on the ground and things can and do move out of the way of it given the chance, especially if those things happen to be chasing you. So you have a choice between either tanking the thing, which is not desirable with our 150 PRR, or running around in circles, in which case your Ice Flower's definitely likely to miss. Is there anything I've missed there? I don't think so. So I try and narrow it down. I know there's some people with like lines and lines of different spells, one for every eventuality. There are some that I see fit to put on the bar that are situationally quite useful. Like if you think of those golems in Ravenloft that like to throw those horrible toxic clouds, a gust of wind can get rid of that, because I know at the higher levels, if you stand in those things for any length of time, you're in deep trouble with the stat damage. So that's situationally useful, as is the greater dispel magic. But by and large, leading, if I've got the range, I'll lead with all the CC to soften things up, finish off with the short range CC and damage dealers, and against single targets, Moonlands, Word of Balance, Comet. And that's pretty much it. And try and stay alive with the Shard Storm and the Winter Heart. Gear, I'm not going to belabor the gear. I did invest quite a lot of time and effort, as evidenced by the fact I've got a legendary green steel stick here. I just can't say enough how horrible that particular crafting system is, at least to me. But thankfully, the new Lamordia one is a lot simpler. But yeah, we've got... I'm not going to hover over each one. But I will mention the desirable things. I mean, it's just basic common sense. You want cold spell power and crit damage as high as you can. You want the same in force, and if you can get some positive power and crit as we have there on the gloves, that's nice because we do have decent healing options too. Anything else is the other side of it, of course, is the spell DCs. I've tried my damnedest to stack as much as possible on that score, so we've got anybody who's played a caster will know that these things all stack. So we've got quality spell focus mastery on the goggles. We've got nothing on there, have we? Where's the... I think there's something... Now then, let me get this right. Oh, it's on the dino stuff, isn't there? Yeah, there's sacred bonus there, you can see at the bottom. So we've got sacred, quality, and there's a profane somewhere as well. Is it on this one? Yeah, 2 profane, and all of those stack. And you're left. That's the thing with the casters. You're basically trying as hard as possible. It might be a bit easier with the latest, with the Mistrana and the Lamordia stuff, because you've got these one-piece set bonus sun and moon augments you can put in for the spell focus mastery and that kind of thing. So maybe that might be easier. But definitely stacking as much of that as possible, and obviously making sure your main casting school is covered. So there you go, we've got Evocation Focus 6, Insightful Evocation Focus 3. So at least at the time of me making that was as good as I could do for the evocation side of things. The other thing is to cover, of course, your main casting stats. So in our case, wisdom. We've got quality wisdom, we've got festive wisdom somewhere from a special event diamond. We've got the standard wisdom, and then I think on here we've got insightful wisdom 6. So again, it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I've seen people with main stats well into the hundreds. We're on 92 here, a bit higher in Reaper, but I'll take it. It's been doing okay. I'm not complaining. I think that's about all I had for the notes. So let's go ahead and step into a quest. I'm deliberately setting the level a bit higher than I would normally do, just to test us and try and show you the limits of the build. Like if a doom pops up, we're going to be in trouble, but maybe I'll at least show you how survivable the wings can make us. Typically I would try these on Reaper 6, and for most of the content, with the exception of some Mistrana stuff, I would say a reasonably geared cold druid should be able to do very nicely once you've got used to the spells and the playstyle on Reaper 6 for most content. You can probably push a bit higher on the earlier stuff like the Grim and Barret, but then higher than 6, you're kind of in the lap of what the game throws at you. If it throws in a vengeance plus a doom, you're not going to last very long. I mean, if that's our fate here, then so be it. I'll if we die very quick at the start, I might just do a repeat and try and just try and show you a little bit how I'm trying to go about it in as safe a manner as I can. So I'm going to start off, like I said, putting the swap weapon on, casting the lightning storm, so hopefully we might get the trigger of ooze and temp hit points. And going from extreme distance, I'm casting our CC on them, try and incapacitate them there, and once we've got them down, we just hammer them with the glacial, and then the tsunami. Finished off with the single target thing as the moon lance and the zero comet. We do have one necro spell here, our Finger of Death, but it's on a low DC because I've not really focused on it. We could potentially target like little archers and casters in the background with that, but I tend to underuse it. Situational, I guess.
The ground shakes,
Okay.
and the cavern shrine door rolls open.
That's one thing I should mention about the, as you may or may not know, most spells, as I did there, they'll cast where your little cursor thing is pointing. If you try that with the cold light of the moon, as I did there, it'll appear centered on you. What you need to do is manually tab target an opponent, and then it'll go along with the rest of your spells.
A resonant hum fills the ruins as the first rune activates.
So we had a Reaper at the back there. I threw in the colour spray for that. Now against this castery type, let's try the magic shield thing here. Let's also try the time stop. Oh my god! That's not gonna be good. Can we even get out of here? No, we can't. Oh, this could be curtains. I just don't think I can do enough damage to get a doom. No. Ugh. Doing my best because I absolutely hate dying, but I think he's gonna get us in the end. Run out of oh yes, come on! Run out of wings. I went, oh no, don't you kill us now. Don't you do it. Let's give him some lightning. How did that doom just pop up? I think this is another good thing actually, whether or not I survive, it's showing you the big weakness of this build. The single target damage is definitely lacking, isn't it? Okay. I think I'll take it as a minor feather in my cap that I didn't die there, but that's also
the second rune activates.
A nice illustration actually, because I'm pretty certain, even allowing for the fact I panicked like hell as soon as that doom popped up, in this confined space I just don't see how I would have dealt with that doom. without the sort of evasive abilities the wings gave me, just to give me a bit of breathing space. I don't see how we would have survived there. So maybe that's one in support of the wings approach. They do recharge, by the way, the wings, over time. Oh god, that was a mess. So broadly speaking, we're doing a damn good job at locking the things down, if we are able to have distance to target, which here we don't. See the ooze there in the middle. We can actually heal the ooze. Could have done with an ooze against that doom. Just a minute, the mouse is playing silly buggers here. Yeah, once you start going into the realms of the Doom Reaper, you're very much at the mercy of when it decides to throw one in. Now, what's the situation with the shrines here? There was a shrine back there. I should probably... Oh, Brian's not going to be happy. I should probably have taken it. Is there another one to come? I think there might be, a bit further on. Don't get knocked down by these people, please. I think if we get knocked over by them, we ain't getting up. So let's do the same to them. So nice illustration of the single target Reaper defense. Word of Balance, Moonlands, Comet.
Everything suddenly shifts.
Okay.
And the ice sheet that makes up the floor collapses.
Just keep chugging these greater freeze potions. I think these come from the portable hole, but you can get them from various other things too. And if you didn't know, you can also, for the commendations of Valor, you can get these potions of spell power that last significantly longer. The two do stack.
Lightning crackles, and you're hit by searing heat and piercing cold.
I don't like the look of this.
These caves have been touched by Kiki's elemental hands. Just watch yourself.
Now, that was a bit more difficult than it should have been. Oh god, we've got 2 crowns over there. And we're also running out of spell points. What am I gonna do here? Do I try and kill those things first, or do I try and sneak into the right? I think the shrine is in here on the right. I think we should try and do something about them. Not sure exactly.
As you travel deeper into the cavern,
Oh, half
you
dead
can feel
already.
everything slowly shift around you.
Get out of there. Okay. Now then, beginning to wonder about should we miss the shrine and just go, because I think there are opponents in there. Let's not do the shrine. There could be a doom or anything down there. We just don't know, do we? Let's go on the safe side and restore as many mana as we can. do have a time stop for the end boss, which could be helpful. Can't hurt, can it? I think we've got one more set of opponents before the end. I think, have we? Or have we actually reached the end? Okay.
A menacing voice seems
I'd
to
have
echo
taken
from
that at that
everywhere
point
it
when that
moves.
Doom Reaper popped up. I'd have taken this.
Into Kithri itself, the voice croaked.
So we've got time stop. We've got
Did you
our
think
magic,
so great a
null
prize
magic
would be
order we could
easily
try
won?
again. I don't know if there is...
Children,
oh, hello.
to feast.
End fight started early. Got the time stop in there. Don't die now. I don't like the look of this. Let's try and thin the field if we can. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I think we'll have the magic defense on. Right then. I think it's just 1v1. I pressed the wrong key there, that's why some of the CC came out, but we could have this.
With the death of the Grey Sloth,
Yes.
the magic barrier sealing off the Eye of Kithri vanishes.
I don't know about you folks, but for someone of my modest means in the game, that counts as a triumph and I'm taking it. Happy days. But more seriously, I hope it just at least showed the sort of capability you have. You don't have to always be the main damage dealer. There's a lot of keeping the party safe to the Druid. Plus, I mean, we were on Reaper 8 there, and he was able to self-heal to a degree at least. So that means to a party, he would be, you know, pretty like if you have several melees surrounding a boss and you can cast these two ticking heals on them. They do stack, by the way. It's quite advantageous. So I suppose the too long didn't listen version would be one of the most flexible and solo friendly classes in the game. The only thing I would say is that the first few levels when you're starting out as a Druid caster really suck if, like me, you insist on playing as a caster. People would say that you should switch to the wolf form and do those first levels as a wolf while still taking caster enhancements and feats. Well, sorry, while still taking caster feats. You could use melee enhancements while you're in wolf form, of course, and then respec. But to me, I mean, if I want to play a wolf, I'll just play a wolf. So my way around that is to lean quite heavily on the stock of cookies we've got from special events. Anything that gives me AoE. So Thornbloom, Thunder Snow cookie. I think there's a Dragon Breath one. There are a few. There's a Firewall one, isn't there? So that's what I do in the early levels, like in the Cobalt tunnels and that kind of thing. I think it's important to mention too, when you are leveling as a Druid, because this is in Heroic, because the big fire spells come before the big cold ones do. You'll notice that this one is a level 9 Tsunami. Will you notice? Does it say it there? No. So I'll have to tell you that's a 9, and this one is an 8. So they only come, I think that only comes available around level 17 or so. So when you get the choice at 13, I would definitely recommend going fire form first, because at that time you get, I think at 13 as well, you get the firestorm, isn't it? So as soon as you get the firestorm, you're in fire elemental form, and you're just destroying everything with that firestorm and flame strike, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, I can tell you. And then when you reach, I think it's 17, you can go cold form, and you're doing the same but with tsunami and ice flower. That's when you start really taking shape as a cold druid. But the 4 or 5 levels as a fire druid can be very fun too, and indeed fire druid is totally viable at the cap as well. If I understand it right, you would have stronger force, works equally well on both sides, doesn't it? But you would have stronger healing spells, I think. Yeah, positive power works with the Child of Summer and the fire. So you'd have stronger healing if you were to go the fire side. The Elder of Winter benefits cold, force, electric. Actually, there's acid in there. I am making use of the acid. I bet I'm throwing it out for defense mainly, but as luck would have it, on the gear, I do have the acid ring, so that's not too bad of a thing to have, actually, on a caster doing lots of AoE. That alchemical earth attunement does quite well, and the corrosion and acid lore obviously boosts up the damage from the shard storm, which is half acid and half poison, I think. If you're wondering why I've got that there and not something more in tune with the build like cold, I've got acid and electric. The two are there for the chained elemental bonus. I've already got the cold covered. Is it between the trinket here? Yeah, we've got insightful glaciation, ice law, and I think on one of the, have we got, I think we've got glaciation standard on either as an augment or somewhere else on the gear anyway. This, I'm not saying it's the best solution by any means, but as well as giving us the salt, this thing, it's also giving us at the bottom there, you can see, quality and exceptional cold power, so a little bit more cold spell power. Oh, and I'm noticing there I also put poison power up there, so we do have reasonable poison and acid power for when the shard storm triggers. So it's a little bit of extra damage, and it's got the nice added benefit of shielding us and hitting the thing that's chasing us, even if we are not facing it. So for those 10 seconds or whatever, we could be a bit of a ghetto alchemist. I have to say I'm jealous of those, being able to run away, like in that situation with that Doom, to be able to target the Doom, run away with sprint boost, because they get that too, don't they? And be able to do multi-vials behind without even looking at the thing. That would be amazing. But I digress. I think that's about all I had to say. So the long and short of it is, the Cold Druid, at least to me, is still engaging, immersive, fun. Yes, if you try and push it to the very top levels in the most recent content, you're going to struggle. But I don't think this is too late content. What level is this that we just did? I don't think I cherry-picked it either. It was just what I happened to be doing. So that's a 32, so 34 on Reaper. So that's fairly recent content. So hopefully that's a decent impression. And I, as mentioned, my gear is decent, but there's no recent stuff, no Mithrana and no Lamordia. The Lamordia stuff in particular, I think you can do the you can craft reasonably easily the extra crit damage, can't you? Extra cold and force crit damage on those items. So provided you've got a nice selection of those to go from, I think people looking to have a go now could do pretty well. I really am going now. Thanks very much as always for looking, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.